Recording now.
Perfect. All right, good afternoon, everyone. It is 5:01 on Tuesday, July 12th. And we will officially call this meeting to order. But the hour. I wonder if it might just be the view. I'm not sure, actually. These guys are turning their heads.
They are.
This doesn't look, oh yeah, it should be. Yeah, they're not moving around.
Are they synced? They're turned on.
Oh, now it looks like it's. They want to live. This one was split, that one wasn't.
Oh,
Out of curiosity, Edna, could you hear me?
I can hear you. I couldn't hear Jan.
Okay. That's not important. Okay, well, we're hopefully we'll call a meeting to order again officially at 5:02, take two. And we'll do a quick roll call, starting with you. Jan Bordeaux, District 2. Carter Hoover, District 1.
Dave Larson, District 5.
Edna Morris, District 4.
Okay, and Director Morris is joining us from online today. The rest of us are here in person, and of course we have Dr. Murray with us as well. And welcome to all of you who are here in person as well. Good evening, good to see you all. All right, so we will move to our public hearing portion of the 2023 to 2026 budget. And just to confirm how this process works, this entire 30-minute portion is open public comment. So there, of course, are several different ways that you can do that. If you are online and would like to submit public comments, you can type your name in the chat or raise your hand utilizing that participant function. And then if you are here in person and give any public comment, there is a sign-up sheet right there at the front on the desk where this board is. Read any sort of like intro.
So,
or
yeah,
anything like
usually we just have, our CFO, in this case, Mr. Tom, just kind of do a brief intro and then any comments or questions. that you may have. Feel free to make those comments. So, Ms. Bird.
All right, well, hello, I'm, oh, right, oh, wait, it's not hot.
Next to the,
no. Sorry. Hi. Where am I speaking to? Just.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Hi, I'm Veronica Birdsong. I'm the Chief Financial Officer for the Tukwila School District. And part of our budgeting process is to get input from the staff, the community, and students in preparation of our upcoming budget. Some of the pieces that go into our budget, one of our main drivers are our enrollment, which pretty much drives all of our funding, in addition to our free and reduced rates, which come by our free and reduced applications. A lot of our funding for some of our federal funding comes from that information, as well as our census data. So in addition to state funding, of federal funding, we use a process with all stakeholders to build our budget. We thrive and we would like to get input from all of our stakeholders, who again are our staff, our students, our community members, and our family, so that we can have a comprehensive and transparent budget. And so if there are any questions about the budget document, I am here to answer them.
You want to explain a little bit about the process after today?
Yes. Yes, so we are hoping to approve the budget August 23rd. So between today and August 23rd, we are going to get input from the community members. In addition to the input today, at this particular session, we will have a board discussion at the board meeting coming up at 6:30. I will also host about 3 to 4 community forums where I talk about budget to get more input prior to August 23rd. I also have spoken to some students at the summer school program, which was very interesting and very exciting. They gave me a lot of insight. It was very interesting talking to our students, and I will continue to talk to some of our students at least 2 or 3 more times before we finalize our budget.
So this is for, just primarily the public, I mean, I have questions really have.
Yeah, yeah. So this is basically. We allow the application for anyone, public or staff, if comments, we have something in chat.
Okay. Want me to read this, or y'all wanna read it out loud, or? Carly, what do you wanna do?
Oh, sure, I can read it out loud,
Okay.
unless, Joe, you're welcome to jump on and speak for yourself if you'd like, also no pressure, it's okay. Awesome.
Go
Okay.
ahead, Joe.
So,
Hi, Joe.
thanks. You should be able to hear me now. I was excited to see that the budget includes $95,000 for 5th grade camp. And that there's an understanding that camp might look different for the upcoming school year due to any COVID restrictions that are still in place. I know that our students definitely benefited from having outdoor experiences from our environmental education days this year, both at the 5th grade and the high school level. But I'm more curious about the breakdown of how that $95,000 is used for camp. I'm also interested in learning more about how we can use money from recently passed state legislation to pay for camp-related expenses. Thanks.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Joe, for that question. So historically, the $95,000 was to actually pay for the services through Camp Osprey, as well as the additional hours for the staff to participate in that event. The $95,000 is pretty much just an earmark. I know that, and Dave can probably speak to this, excuse me, Director Larson, probably speak to this later about the passing of the outdoor education. So if those dollars do get streamlined for the 22-23 school year, then that $95,000 can be allocated for other means due to COVID. If there are still those types of restrictions, we can actually use ESSER dollars and actually provide those other experiences for our students.
Yeah, as far as the legislation, I assume, OSPI, I'm sure will be coming out with some guidelines and process for how it's a grant program, so in order to get it, we would have to apply for it. And, the way the bill was written, when I last looked at it, it's just set up for us. We need it's supposed to be for 5th and 6th graders, multi-day camps, favor, going for low income, so it's kind of tailored for our, so. Given that I'm not sure exactly how many dollars there is statewide, but, so there'll be a competition and we just have to keep eyes open and both guys just figure it out and opens it up and go for it. I was gonna add the other costs and camp courses, the transportation costs, we go to the students down at that.
And just for clarity purposes, I think folks can only public comment twice. Is that true? Is that the same thing? Not in this one. It's
Yeah.
Completely open. Okay, I just wanted to clarify that for myself and for Joe in case.
And obviously, if there are questions that people have after taking a look at this over time, they can email us any additional feedback. So.
Could you comment or in a way what you heard from the city, had some interesting discussions with the students?
Yes.
What kind of things did you
Yes.
talk about?
No, perfect. All right. So I went to Foster, and a lot of my input were from fifth graders going into going to sixth grade, and our seventh graders going into eighth grade. And so I started off the question, do you know what a budget is? Right? And so for the most part, a lot of the students knew what a budget was. And then I said, well, how am I gonna approach this? So what I said is, I said, hey, if you had $100,000 to spend for your school, how would you like to spend it? Is there any areas that you could see some help with? Is there anything that you struggled with, your siblings, your fellow team members? And so basically what came out of that was free meals. They wanted to make sure that they were able to get free meals. And so I was like, hey, guess what? It's exciting, right? Math help. One of the students, which I thought was a really good idea, not only for students, but maybe even staff sometimes, was a calm down room. So it would be really nice if we had a room where we can go and kind of calm down and, you know, digress a little bit. And I was like, hey, that's not a bad idea. Some of the students talked about getting more help with science, more tangible materials to kind of help make the learning a little bit more interactive. Another idea was more sports equipment. I know that Gabe Gutierrez is working on getting more sports equipment. I know that we got a donation from the hockey team. I can't, the cracking thing. Okay, yeah. And so, yeah, okay, just want to make sure they had an interesting name. And so I know that he's working hard with that. School supplies. And so I think, guess what? We're getting free school supplies. Yay, exciting, right? And so they were really excited about that. One of the students mentioned better lunch, and I told them how they can participate and be part of that change, that feedback process. And I told them to look out for information from the buildings, the beginning of the school year, and then probably in January, because we want to at least get some input 2 times a year. Some reading help, more one-on-one individualized reading. And then just in general field trips, and I kind of explained to them, you know, we had to do some alternatives field trips because of COVID. We had to make sure everybody was safe. And then they also expressed field trips to colleges, which I thought was really great, being that, you know, the grades that they were entering was still, you know, 6th and 8th grade.
Which we also did. When they gave it the plan.
And then one of the students had mentioned lunch outside. And I believe this was a 5th grader going in 6th grade. And I was like, hey, you can go outside for lunch. Like, it's great. Like, it's not open campus, but you know, you're not confined to the room. Like, it's the transition is going to look a little bit different. Going from 5th grade to 6th grade. And then some PE supplies. So it was a great conversation. And the summer school looks amazing up there, by the way. They were working on, they were putting together, I forgot the words that they used, but they were like 3D slides made out of like construction paper, and they were rolling the little ball down. So it was very interesting. So I talked to some kids during the lunchtime, and then I went into 2 separate classrooms to try to get feedback to some of the students.
Yeah.
It was breakfast. They were still trying to wake up a little bit, but they were pretty interactive. So again, I plan on going back and getting some more feedback, and then probably talking to the little ones. You know, I will obviously phrase my question a little differently and see what I come up with.
So where's the free supplies coming from?
We are paying those from ESSER dollars. The school supplies, yep. It's an allowable cost, and we just want to make sure that our students are prepared for the school year, less stress for our families. And so it's allowable cost, and I say, let's jump on the bandwagon and do it.
It's all levels.
Yes. Yep. K through 12.
Has that been publicized, Mr. Chair? I just saw one Facebook, Instagram, apparently saying
Yeah.
they didn't know about it.
Yeah, we are getting that
Yeah,
publicized. I know that all the wonderful sales for school supplies are coming up, so we are going to advertise that. We are working with Ms. Martin to get that that communication out.
Friday.
I have something in chat. Joe, do you want to speak to that? You're still, you can unmute.
Sweet. Okay, so I typed in the chat, is there a difference between how ESSER 1, 2, and 3 funds can be used? I'm seeing that there's a difference in dates of when the money's available and different deadlines for spending. Is there any other differences between those three, ESSER 1, 2, and 3?
So the main difference between the ESSER 1, the ESSER 2 set aside, and the ESSER 3 is that ESSER 2 is specifically geared toward learning loss. So we can only spend those dollars on learning loss. So outside of that, it was just how the federal government dispersed the dollars.
Timeline for expenditure.
Right, was correct. And the timeline, depending on the different ESSER due to how the government decided to give us the dollars and then made, certain rules. Another piece that no one probably cares too much for is that one of the difference between ESSER 1 and ESSER 2 when it came to staffing pieces was time and effort, which is a whole nother category. But outside of that, it's mainly just making sure that we do allowable expenses and that ESSER 2 is only for learning loss. Now outside of that, if we spend more geared to learning loss, it can be charged to ESSER 3, but the set aside for ESSER 2, that full amount has to be for learning loss.
I think that ESSER 1 is basically gone.
Oh, yeah, ESSER 1 is done. Yep. Fully expended.
Looks like we're about halfway through some of the ESSER 2,
We're getting
the
there.
learning loss, where we haven't quite been too much into that, and then ESSER 3. We haven't really started to expand that.
The good news is ESSER 3 is actually the biggest bottom.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
But we'll start eating into that this year.
Yeah.
Obviously,
We have to spend all 3 by 23.
24. Yep.
There's some speculation. I don't know if you heard any more about, it's not just as some districts are having, other districts having trouble maybe spending it all in the time frame. And there's been, I guess, some talk, this is federal dollars, so
Mhm.
whether they would, they would require the Congress to expand the period.
yeah, I haven't heard too much about that. The fact that it rolls through Title I is an interesting aspect also because those allocations literally between the time they were allocated to us in 2021 and the time of expenditure through Title I could shift in what they're getting. Now, the dollars are already up there, but the associated Title I dollars that get expended in those years could be an interesting aspect. So for some districts that may have gone down in the Title I allocations, they may be wondering what kind of rollovers they can get in those kind of places. So I think more to hear for sure. What that looks like.
There's another question from Joe. Joe, do you want to?
Yeah, just to clarify, sorry, Veronica, on the draft proposal, I'm seeing that. Give me a second. I think I'm echoing. On the draft proposal, I'm seeing ESSER 3 is broken down to ESSER 3 and ESSER 3 learning loss. So is it ESSER 2 funds that are being used for learning loss, or is it ESSER 3?
And extra revenue.
Oh, yeah. So it probably should read, let me go back and clarify, but it should read 20% learning loss. And I believe it is, I believe it ESSER 2 learning loss. Sorry about that. So I will go back and fix that.
I think at this point, we should plan on spending it all on 324 and so, oh yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
Not,
Yeah,
if they ended at some point in time, but that would count.
yeah. Our hope is to obviously spend a good portion this year.
Yeah.
Because the more you leave in the last year, the harder it is to spend. I mean, it gets challenging trying
Yeah.
to spend all that money.
Yeah.
So that's why we're really trying to. like, I know, it's-
Well, when you think of it, I mean, school districts in general are not set up to do that because it's never happened before. And so, yeah,
Yeah.
and you gotta think about it, and, you know,
For us, there are some school districts that have already spent all the rest of the
Oh,
year, I think there's kind of one allocation. So they can move through everything like, yeah, we're,
when they're all complaining, we didn't give them.
right. Yeah, that's where they want to stay.
And a lot of them are depending on that, the enrollment stabilization piece. Which is federal as well.
I know all this, but I don't, what is the indirect,
Indirects are kind of the, what's the word I want to, kind of like the overhead of all the behind the scenes workers that cannot. Behind the scenes work that go into the grant, like the work that I do, the work that my team does, work for printing stuff.
So this.
Communications.
To us, it just can't
It-
be used for program.
So it comes to us and on the revenue side, not the expenditure. And that's why I kind of break out the piece, like we can expend, the grant might be 600,000, right? We can spend 500,000 on the expenditure side, but we're allowed to collect 600 because 100 of that was indirects.
Basically, we're dealing with all the paperwork.
Yeah.
I mean, all these grants come with lots of.
Administrative costs, you can't, right?
Making sure that indirect came to us.
It does. Yep, indirect, it comes to us on the revenue side.
Thank you.
No,
And
you're
those
welcome.
indirects can vary depending on the kind of project you have, so there are usually maximum indirects depending on the type of organization you are, where the funds are coming from. So they can kind of vary.
They do, they change the F-196, the information that gets put into our F-196 for our federal. Gets kicked out the next 2 years, and the state ones are the ones that kind of, they're usually a lower indirect rate.
Yeah, with the rental relief stuff that we got from the feds. We called it admin. Kind of what was admin.
Mhm.
Right? That's our expenses for Ryan, for them. They gave us nothing in the first quarter. And we said, wait. We're gonna give out $8 million a year dollars, you're not paying my staff to do this. And so we did give it up, we got it to 15 or 10%, so that's probably that. It's probably the same kind of thing.
Yep, get the revenue side. So that helps us, bottom line.
What kind of reporting do the feds want back on?
For the ESSER, nothing that I am aware of at this moment, but it's more of the compliance when it comes to the auditors.
But yeah, it's submitted, the expenses to us, the honor and somebody down like us, so, yeah, we approve this.
So through the grant process, which is how we, claim our dollars and they get reimbursed. They ask a series of questions, and then based on how we want to spend our dollars, we put that piece into the budget. And let's say if during our planning of ESSER 3, we realized that we didn't put anything for, I don't know, a contracted social worker or something. We can go in and do a budget revision, put the little narrative and said, hey, we decided that we want to do this, move some money around, the bottom line still has to stay the same. And then they approve it accordingly. And then, of course, the auditor comes in and makes sure that we, our bid requirements and all that wonderful stuff, and make sure we did our allowable expenses.
Right. But they're looking to make sure we spent it correctly, but they're not looking at to make sure that learning loss was corrected.
They would probably, if there's an earmark or requirement for learning loss, they're gonna be looking for that being coded.
Yeah, right. But they're not gonna look at our test scores and ask us to pay it back if we didn't.
No, not necessarily. Not
Okay.
necessarily.
Okay.
But they do, so they ask like additional questions. So in addition to like a regular grant claim, there's another step where we have to go into a smart sheet and say, you know, what the learning loss, what piece, was it a technology piece of learning loss, or was it direct student contact for learning loss? And I mean, that's with all of the ESSERs, so they ask specific buckets to know how the dollars were spent.
I think it's gonna be important for us to know as we spend these extra dollars and spend it in different ways. And it's gonna be important for us to know, well, what actually worked.
Right.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, the data.
Yeah.
Figure out how to continue with that.
And I think that's kind of the point that was in the allocation of the dollars, was here's a lot of extra dollars for schools to figure out, like, given this kind of situation, where some strategies or approaches you can use that would be effective in supporting students. You know, the irony behind that, if you can find a couple of things, and then, you know, how do you continue that? Could get guidance for either future grants, or you just shift some of the applications to contract. So, other budgeting, local levies. Every state says this is federal. States have different ways that school districts are allowed to fund dollars. So we know how we do it in Washington, but in other states have different mechanisms.
Do they specifically name learning loss as academic or as like social skills? Learning loss.
That's a really good question. I'll have to get back to you on that one.
I would bet that today.
Do it,
I would bet that it's today.
it's vague, yeah. That may be a way to. Use some of those things to support student.
Yeah, I think all of them is pretty flexible. We can spend it for a lot of different things. I mean, and as long as it's for the benefit of the students.
Monitors is. I mean, focus thing that all districts receive, but it can be a challenge because sometimes they don't. I mean, they look at some things in every district and other districts they focus on something else. But since this is such a dollar amount, that's going to be their focus.
Oh, yeah, next audit's gonna hit it's gonna hit all three, because ESSER 1 got completed this year, so you're gonna look at ESSER 1, ESSER 2.
And they may be looking at us more because we have one of the highest in terms of, we did it on a per student basis. Sure. We have one of the highest per student allocations from ESSER dollars in the state, so.
Right, so it's 5:29. Is there any other comments from the guests or I don't know, or more students that you as well? Okay, well, thank you so much for your input and your questions. Ms. Britton, thank you so much for being here and putting all this together. For really going out and getting the input from students. I'm glad that experience was rewarding, and I'm excited to hear what the younger students say as well. So much creativity. All right, we will officially adjourn this meeting at 5:30. If I motion in a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right.
I